and I said if Shane pops on, then he can grab the floor for a bit. But look, tonight, what Mark and I thought we would just do, again, we try and keep the fairly relaxed where we can. We think that's where we get really good conversations. But for those of you that were on the call a couple of weeks ago when we had Jacqueline Fetters from the Central Coast Council, part of the Business and Economic Development team, or she's the manager of that department, is my understanding. She shared some information with us, a lot of statistics, and we distributed those and the recording. One of the things that I guess Mark and I spoke about after that conversation was a little bit surprising, but I didn't expect this to be her answer when we said, how can we as a group help the situation on the Central Coast? And her answer was sharing knowledge and upskilling, basically, of all of us, which was, like I said, surprising, but sort of good to hear. So off the back of that, what we just thought we would do tonight is just have a bit of an open conversation. Like, there's many different people on the call. Some of us have been in business a little bit of time. Some of us have been in business a short time. Some of us are working in corporate organizations still, and maybe have plans of going into business or something, but have some fantastic experience that they can call upon. So what I wanted to start with was just throwing it out, given our experience in business, like where, if we could say someone, and I'll go to Mark as an example just to start with. We haven't set this up, but Mark, where do you struggle you've been in your business a long time. You and I have had some conversations. We just want to throw some things out there that how can we help business get better? How can we help all of us succeed in business? Where do those challenges sit? And if we start to identify some of those challenges and what people want to know and learn more about, then we feel that we can pull from the LinkedIn local network where people can share their knowledge, share what they do. That in turn helps upskill people. And hopefully that in turn means that we can all have better businesses because we can have different people looking at things and helping us with different things. So, cool. So Mark, I'll throw to you first to get the ball rolling, if that's all right.
Sure. It's interesting because I'm just going to crank this up a bit over here. Hope you can hear me all right. One of the things I think is quite fascinating, and I have referred to this as Cobbler's shoes syndrome. I don't know. Has anyone else here in the room ever heard that phrase before? Cobbler's shoes syndrome?
Yep.
Hey, it's that the idea of Cobbler's shoes syndrome is that if you ever look at the average cobbler person who repairs shoes, chances are if you look at his shoes, they look like crap, right? Okay. And everyone else's shoes, he makes their shoes look great because that's what he's good at doing, is fixing other people's shoes. But how often do they actually look after their own shoes? And that's actually, I think, what happens in a lot of cases for a lot of businesses. And it's a natural tendency that we have to focus on helping our clients, but sometimes to the level that becomes the detriment of our own businesses, because we've not spent the time in doing the same thing that we tell everyone else to do. And so therefore, and I suffer from that like everyone else, just earlier today, it was a conversation I was having with Brendan about a conversation I had with Isaac Finney back on Friday about content. And it was like getting a slap upside the head from, of me basically saying, geez, I'm trying to figure out how I can actually get, a better result or outcome out of the work that I do. And his answer was create more content, So as a content creator, it was like, oh yeah, right. That's right. I forgot to actually do that for myself recently. And that's often what a lot of people will do. And it comes down to the same thing with a lot of organizations and businesses. And content is one of those things from a marketing perspective that I think a lot of people forget is the only thing that you can put out into the world for people to better understand what it is that you have on offer in your business. And so therefore, really, I'm developing strategies that help you do that and to be more consistent. And being aware of the long game impact of these things is often something forgotten for small business. because it usually, resources are limited, time is limited, um, um, and mental energy to actually come up with new ideas and new ways of saying things can be limited too. So you have to be able to inspire yourself. And often the best way to do that is to, in fact, have those conversations like I had with Isaac, where he was, you know what, Mark, you got to do what you tell everybody else to do. You got to do it for yourself. And it's those types of conversations. So to me, my strategy or hint is have a conversation with those people who you probably know are going to tell you to suck eggs, and be okay with it, and just, go into the conversation knowing that's very likely what's going to happen, and you got to be at home with that, and be at home with yourself on that. That's an example of, from a point of view, what can we do to, and what happens from a skills to address the specific question that Jackie Svedas was talking about at the last meeting, with regards to upskilling the Central Coast. A big part of upskilling is simply the practice of doing more, and doing it more often, and doing it more consistently. And, it's no different than, Bob, here, and you're here on the call. I'm glad I didn't get a chance to say hello. The more times you do a dive, the better you get at it. The more you're aware of things that can go wrong, go right. Patrick, you're the same thing for you when you're developing a marketing strategy for your clients. The more often you do it, the better you get at it. The more you see what can work and what won't work. It's all about that. So doing it more often and doing it for ourselves. So that's an idea for you.
So I just put some stuff in the, I guess what I took from you, Mark, is you're around content. We've spoken a bit about content before, and that's sort of quite confronting for people, I suppose, creating content. And so again, unless people wanted to sort of go into that, I might just put that aside for a minute. I'm really interested in just some of the day-to-day basics of, having your business, creating. I know my example, when I went back into my consulting business, I already closed down my company. I set back, I just went into sole tradership, and I just chucked all of the, the money that was coming in. It'd be nice if it was all of it, coming in and going into the single bank account. So I didn't, even though I knew, have some form of financial management, I wasn't really keeping a close eye on my finances in my business. As long as at the end of the month, I seemed to have a bit more in there than what I had the previous month, then that was pretty cool. And, I kept myself afloat. Not the best way to manage a business, whether you're a sole trader or a company. So, I had conversations with my accountant, and, we set up certain structures to make sure that, I could manage my business down to the dollar, where I was spending money, where I wanted to spend money. But even that required, again, I've got a competent level of financial management, I like to say, but I wasn't doing it. So let alone if people don't have any level of, I guess, financial competence, where have they struggled in their business? Financial, most businesses aren't making money, from day dot, but some don't even know that they're not making money because they're not managing their finances very well. So, we've got people on the line here that have had businesses for not very long. I mean, what's people like Gabe, sort of doing from a financial perspective? Where did you have challenges there? Unmute yourself.
Yes, my major challenge is marketing. I've invested a little bit of money in marketing on a couple of groups that I thought would be good leads. Nothing's come of that yet. So I'm now considering whether to go into advertising or not, or just hang in there. I don't want to cold call. It's not my thing. I don't want to be cold calling businesses. I really don't think it's a good thing these days.
When you say sort of finding leads, and you've taken up a couple of sort of options, again, leads is a really common one for people, and marketing leads to leads eventually. But what is it about sort of trying to get into the sort of nitty gritty of, what is it about finding leads? Is there a process around that? Is it using tools to help find leads? Like, is it all of the above? Like, what helps business?
What I did,
leads?
Brendan, I looked over my business plan that I created through the NICE program, and identified my target market, and then came across a group called Tradie Wives. Zeke and I actually discussed this. They were probably one of the best places for me to advertise, because they're the wives, they're running the businesses basically of their trade husbands, they're the group that are going to need the safety, work health and safety compliance help.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've found in advertising in that, it's a Facebook group, what I've found in advertising in there, they're not pushing each individual company. They're just letting you be a member of that directory, and you have to be active on that Facebook page and watch out for anybody that asks questions and jump in and say, check me out, I'm on the directory. It's not what I thought it was going to be.
Mm.
So, that was nearly $400. It's only been 3 months, I guess, so I've had no bites.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've given some value to them. I've given advice for free. I guess the thing is with that, just keep on commenting so people start to recognize your name.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll see that you have some value with whatever, questions that come up. I usually will give them good websites to have a look at for answers, or I'll tell them that I'm a member of the tradie directory to look me up and have a chat.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So again, just at risk of, I just want to put this out there, at risk of going into solution mode for people, I don't want to go too much into that tonight. Again, the focus for us tonight is to keep, those sort of ideas. So again, things like marketing, leads attached to marketing. We could jump across to Patrick really quickly here and say, hey, Patrick, give us your top 3 points for helping us out on the marketing and the lead side. But there'll be a time for that. That's what we want to try and get from people on this call tonight. What is it that, when you started the business? So exactly what you're saying, Gabe. So Patrick, can I ask, not going into solution mode, but if we look at marketing and leads and you're dealing with clients, what would you say are the challenges that you're seeing and hearing from your clients regularly around that space?
I think one of the biggest challenges is really understanding what marketing is all about. You'd think that's self-evident, but really they need to understand what marketing is actually business development. It's not about telling people what you are, what you do, what your number is. It's really focusing on the pain points of your target market, telling them how you're going to solve those problems, and giving credibility on terms of how you can solve the problems. That really is what marketing is all about. Really focus on your own target audience. What are their problems? What are you trying to provide them? How will you provide it to them? Really, no one really wants to listen to, oh, I do this, and this is my number, and such. Unfortunately, I'll say this, and I say this many times to clients when I talk to them, no one cares about what you do. They only care about what you can do for them. And that's really the key point.
Mm. Great point, Patrick. Might just throw to Q as well. He's a bit of a, also we're lucky to have 2 marketing gurus. Maybe there's other marketing gurus on the line, but there's 2 that I'm aware of anyway. So mate, have you got anything to add there about any significant and I guess consistent challenges that you're finding with businesses?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me clearly. Cool.
Can do, bud.
Essentially what Patrick said, he's hit the nail on the head around what marketing is. So it's about, I won't repeat, but pain points, and you being the bridge that can walk them over the channel of water from the problem to the solution. Yeah. You also have to be able to, a key part of marketing is your value proposition. And you have to be able to articulate that really, really clearly so that they know what the benefit is from working with you. And last, and just something's, I'm sorry, I forgot that lady's name, Gabe. We won't get into, as you said, solution mode, but direct response is, and cold calling is what she's called it. Direct response is one of the greatest ways for you to connect with other businesses. So if there's a stigma around that in society, because we've all had bad experiences, but the reality is the direct response is the best way to generate leads for B2B services, from my experience.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
How many people around our virtual table, by raise of hand, have challenges with their marketing, believe their marketing should be or could be better? I guess everything can be better, but there's
everybody can do better, even me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. IQ as well, mate. I thought you were the expert.
Oh, mate.
I'm just joking, mate. I'm just joking.
Mate, I'm only expert in watching the Socceroos.
He's got Cobbler syndrome, Brendan.
Well, there's a saying: if you're not going up, you're going down.
It's a drip under pressure. An expert is a drip under pressure.
It is. Sorry, Patrick, you were going to say something, buddy?
No, I'm just saying that if you're not get improving, there's only one way you're going. You're retreating. You got to improve constantly. I learn every day. I'm looking for new ideas.
Yeah. I'm just on that marketing theme again. We're not sort of looking for solutions, but I'm going to throw across to Peter. So Peter's the owner and managing director of Quick Copy in Gosford. Do you still have Tugger as well? Can't remember.
Not Tugger anymore, just Gosford.
No, Gosford. So he's a man that produces a lot of marketing material, I suppose. So can we throw something across to you, mate? Where do you see challenges for small business in that marketing space?
I think the biggest problem is consistency. Just picking something and running with it for a while. People want to do social media, and they just get on there and then they just sort of blast, and then they come back 3 weeks later and say, well, that didn't work. And then they want to do a mail out, so they do letterbox drops. Instead of doing like 1,000 letterbox drops around your immediate area over a 5 to 10 week period is far more productive than doing 10,000 in 1 week, because you'll get that consistency. You get people start to get to know you, and it's and then the feedback starts to come back, and brand recognition starts to happen. So I think just whatever you pick, try and be consistent with it. Like I think Gabe, what you're saying with always commenting on that feed that you see through your services, always just make sure that you're just consistent with your message. And whenever you see a chance to chip in, because that's when people start to recognise.
Good point.
Yeah. I actually like the cold calling myself as a stopgap. If you're ever having a quiet time, is getting out and start walking the streets, and not knocking on doors so much, but just walking around and leaving a flyer or something that you can physically leave behind at a business. Because number one, you get the familiar with that business as a storefront, and you also get a chance just to meet one of the staff members, or you get a chance to leave a really good promotion for someone to call you back at some point, or it's something that they might leave behind if you have something that's fairly sticky that you can leave behind that stays around on their desk. And then when they actually do think of you and think, that's actually, I'll give this guy a call or a girl a call. So I actually don't mind cold calling, not so much as the old vacuum cleaner sales guy, but just walking the streets and dropping off a brochure or some kind of memorabilia that people might remember you.
It can be as simple as a business card.
Exactly.
One of my famous things I think I've said before is that whole thing of I'm a fan of not having business cards printed on both sides. And if you do have, Make sure you can write on, make sure there's plenty of white space. You can write on the back side of the business card. People will remember what you wrote on the back of the card, right? So it's that whole thing of, you have to be willing to do something that's a little uncomfortable. And I think that's the real point with that, right? There's a certain amount of stepping out of one's comfort zone. Every one of these ideas or comments or challenges come from having to do something different than we've done before.
Absolutely. I'm just going to throw across to Miriam, who put something in the chat, has something different to marketing. We've sort of got a number of angles from marketing. And again, I just want to reiterate to people tonight that what we're really keen on doing, again, through the LinkedIn local communities, we want to start creating some resources, some free resources that can help all of us in business and succeed, whether that be marketing or a session on cold calling or a session on business development specifically, or might be sort of brochure development or whatever. That's what we're trying to just generate and pinpoint some more immediate ideas. We could do 1,001 things, but where are really people challenged? Miriam.
Yep. So as the startup, one of the challenges that we have is just doing everything ourselves, all the operational tasks, creating content, marketing, finances, whatnot. It's often like Zeke is busy creating content, and because he's good with sales pitch and everything, so we rely on him to go out and sell. But because we are dependent on him for some very specific content, so he's doing that. So all these adding delays, and having a startup, we don't have all the means to hire people to help us. So I wonder how other people manage this workload of the startup, or what they did. And also another challenge is actually staying motivated. When you have a setback, when you put your sweat and everything in that hard work, content, marketing, blah blah blah, and then you get few leads, and then they reject you, or I find it myself, it's really demotivating. So staying motivated and continue with that. It's good to hear some.
I have a comment on that one. The way I look at it, when I'm finding opportunities and prospecting, I'm actually looking at, it's a thought process. You're looking for ways and opportunities to help others. So if you change the concept, I'm not looking for a customer, I'm looking for ways to help others. If you get rejected, what happens is, in your thought process, well, there was no opportunity to help that person at this point in time. Maybe in the future. We'll visit that again in the future. So it's really not looking at the numbers. It's not really a selling type scenario. It's a soft sell, if you like, because you're looking at, how can I help you? What are the opportunities for us helping one another? Give you an example. There was you talked about flyers in the mailbox. I love that. Do you know why? Because flyers in the mailbox is an opportunity for me to call them. The question I would ask them is, flyers, it comes in, oh, this is an offer. I'll give them a call. Oh, such and such, I received your flyer. How is it doing for you? So what you're asking is from his point of view. And then if he says, oh, it's not doing well, then you open up and say, maybe you can do this. Now, if he says, wow, it's going great, then you might say, oh, that's really good for you. You should continue to do that. So again, it's not really, it's a mind concept. In fact, that concept I did come up with, there's a good salesperson, and it's all about the soft sell, how to reduce friction, and how to change the concept in your mind that you're not actually trying to get a sale, you're looking for opportunities to help one another. So the mindset is not negative when you get rejected. It's, oh, I couldn't do anything for you at this point.
Yeah, Patrick's saying that, like, back of your saying, yeah, we really work on our mindset that we really want to help. But it's like, I use an example, like, you know, your brother is in trouble and you want to help him, and you try and try and try, but he doesn't want your help, you know? You know what the problem is, but at the end, it's really disappointing. I think that's what I'm talking about there.
That is a beautiful point. And one of the things I've learned over the 15 years is you can't help everyone. Even if you see it's blinding obvious that they need your help, but they haven't realized that they need your help. Exactly. Then it's not your customer. It's not your prospect. I only will deal with customers who have realized they need to be better at their marketing. So when I talk to people and they say, oh, the marketing is good, it's great, and I can see they're not doing well, but they're not recognize it, they're not really my customer. I don't see that as a customer, because you have to educate them first that they're not doing well, which is a negative thing. In their mind, they're doing well, and then suddenly you tell them they're not doing well. It just doesn't work out. So I'm looking for people who say, oh, it's not doing well. I didn't do well. In fact, several of those mail flyers that came in, when I asked that question, how is it working for you? They open up. And then that's the conversation comes in. It's just a concept. It's a mindset. I know it's hard. I do pick up calls as well to talk to people out of the blue. But I guess that's one of the things you got to learn to do as well, if you're looking to help other people.
To support that point, Patrick, I just put into the notes the name of a book, which I think if you haven't read it, if you're, I don't know if you're a reader or for an audio book, whatever the case might be, I've listened to it a few times. It's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And she's highly regarded as one of the great, she's a researcher. She's a PhD who's researched the whole thing of mindset and success and change in behavior. First time I was actually, I read the book, and then I actually got to see her speak on a few occasions, and she's a brilliant lady. So that's very much true. And you have to recognize, to be able to identify those people who are prepared to have that open mindset, to see things differently and try something new.
That's a good book.
And the name of the guy I remember now is Eric Galper.
Oh, Eric Galper. Yeah. Yeah.
You know
He's
him?
Australian. Yeah, I've met him. Yeah, I met him. He's a great guy.
Yeah. He's based in Sydney. He came from the States, and he married a local Australian as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, direct question, who around the table has a challenge with cold calling? Oh, they don't like cold calling.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Okay.
Paul, do you
already
like
said
making
you don't
cold
like
calls?
cold calling. No, Gabe
Oh,
already.
me, I hate
answered
cold
it.
calling.
She
of
answered
course.
it 10 minutes ago.
There's two
I'm okay.
There's
I'm
two
okay to go
parts
into someone's house, but on the telephone, no way. Awful.
So
There's
I'm
two
okay
types
with
of cold calling.
I'm okay with cold calling, but
I
it's
hate it.
when like I don't like wasting people's time if I don't know something about them that I can help them with.
Correct.
That's the thing that, you know, I think that the leads part of it is like knowing a business, knowing an individual that needs design thinking, product management, project management like we do. It's a very niche market. And so for me to go in all guns blazing and start talking about my specific things, I can waste their time quite quickly, and I can waste my time as well. That's the thing about cold calling. It's like knowing, I want to know a little bit more about them before I just get on the phone.
Absolutely. You got to do your homework before the call.
That's right. It's interesting because the world of cold calling, I come from a long line of cold calling from the days of my father having been a life insurance sales rep. He was the guy that everybody saw and they walked across the street to get away from him. Right. And then I went into the same business. So you can imagine, you know, it's like, yeah, okay, understanding the challenge and difficulty of rejection at a very high level. And it's one of those types of industries that does teach you that, yeah, it's tough, but it's very, very important to practice those kinds of muscles as much as you can, and to also identify those, if it's really not a good fit for you, it becomes a real motivator to say, okay, what do I need to do to build my business so I don't have to do this anymore? Right? Because that becomes, and there are strategies for doing that. And that's actually a big part of why, like going back to the issue mindset, that's one of the things. But there's also the other thing of then basically understanding that sometimes, and this goes into why, what the conversation is really about tonight, is what parts of your business, in fact, actually might need adjustment because they don't lend themselves well to the ways in which we can now market ourselves today, right? For example, when I started doing the sales for my business, I started off cold calling with the virtual tours. That's what I started doing, door knocking, literally, because I knew I could basically show people, Google my business on my phone, show them how it was easy, relatively in that sense. Incredibly tiring. Come home completely exhausted, but I knew that it was possible. Today, it's a little bit different of a strategy for me, as you could probably understand. And Peter, to go to your point, that the whole thing of doing that today, you do have to be somewhat careful as to how you do the cold calling and the approach because of the issues about physical distancing now. There's all these little quirky things that we need to respect. So it's about how do you adapt? How do you create a new opportunity in this very challenging situation?
I'm just going to divert. I just put something in the chat, which Sonia went to. A bit of changing directions tonight, not because we don't want to follow on a certain point, but trying to get as much information from people as possible. So one of our friends, again, I haven't seen the post yet, but Catherine McGilvray apparently put something on LinkedIn today around the LinkedIn local group and grant writing. We've probably got, I don't know, can I assume 2 people on the call here tonight, Jacinta and probably Dennis, have had some experience, I'm guessing, with grant writing. But do we have business?
I've just put the link in, by the way, just so you know, so anyone wants to grab that link. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Hey, yeah, I have to write grants for my charity,
Christine.
and I pretty much get about a 90% success rate.
Okay. You've just signed yourself up for the grant writing course.
So can I tell you what I do, which is against what... So I went to a few of them and everybody said that, you have to hit these key marks and you have to do this and then you're supposed to ring the manager and find out what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. I did that for the first 3 ones and didn't get anything. So then I just started speaking from my heart and now I get all the grants.
Interesting.
Good point. Emotion carries a lot of weight, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, in the industry I'm in, I suppose, yes. If it was you were going for a business grant, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But I still add all the statistic I need to, but I just make sure there's a nice little thing about the truth of why we're going for it and what it'll truly mean to people.
Christine, how abreast are you around grants across different areas, or is it you've sort of more focused around your business, I assume?
Well, I run 3 charities, so I just got a grant from the federal government, 2 from the state government, and 2 for business. Mm-hmm. So probably all across it, I think.
Mm-hmm. I guess where I'm getting to is, say from yourself, I've had no experience with grant writing, and again, I mentioned Dennis, I mentioned Jacinta and now yourself around it. I guess I'm unfamiliar with this. There seems to be this broad scope around grant writing, and maybe there's businesses around the table here that could benefit from grant writing, but we don't even know that we're eligible for certain grants. So, is there space for that actually? Before you even get into writing a grant, you've got to know what bloody grant you're looking for or what's suitable for your industry. Is anyone around the table that has knowledge of that?
The Grants Hub, that's got everything. It's got for all of Australia and international, and for business through to anything you could possibly imagine, down to the arts, media, everything.
Okay.
All right.
Grants Hub.
Just to let me make a comment on that, if I may. I was an assessor of the New South Wales State Government on grant applications for companies that are developing innovative products. The biggest drawback was when they applied for a grant, they talked about their technology, but they didn't talk about the benefits that they were going to make to the global enterprise and the globe. So when you're writing a grant, you've got to come up with the specific as to what your product is going to do and benefit to other people.
Yep.
Not talk about your technology per se. So grants, particularly if it's a federal or state government grant, they're looking for, the whole purpose of a grant from a state or federal government is that sometime in the future, they want to see you develop a business which creates revenue, which ultimately creates tax benefits to the government. That's what they're looking for. So they need to know that you've got a product that's going to actually be successful in the marketplace. So rather than talk about your technology, you talk about the benefits that it's going to create in the market.
Yep.
That
Good point, Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Good
in
point.
some respects, it seems pretty obvious, Dennis, and I appreciate that. And the problem often happens to be, and this is very consistent with what Patrick was saying from the point of view of how do you approach this, the problem solution argument for your client, right? You got to think solutions based first, and do you have to identify the problem? Yeah, you do, but you have to be able to demonstrate how that solution drives a particular outcome. Otherwise, what's the point? Otherwise it's just asking for money.
Can I ask people again, how do people set targets or goals, or that dreaded 2 words, business plan, if you want to call that? How do you set that for your business? Like, do you do that? If you do it, how did you do it? Did you get help? If you don't do it, is it because you don't know how to do it?
I did it through the NICE training, which was basically the Cert 3 in creating a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we have daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly tasks, quarterly tasks.
How do you spell that you said, babe?
NEIS.
NEIS.
New Enterprise Incentive Scheme.
Mm-hmm.
What does anybody else do? The silence means that we don't set any plans.
I think we could drag Marcus into this call. Marcus, you've probably written a fair amount.
That's a good call.
In your space.
Yes, I have. But
why didn't you speak up earlier? Why didn't you speak up earlier?
No, because it's one of those sort of tricky situations, I guess. Writing business plans is always hard, and often what happens is we write a business plan, we spend a long time on it, and then we put it on top of the cupboard and never look at it again. One of the things that we've been endeavoring to do a lot more of is writing simple one-page business plans. And if you Google one-page business plans, you'll actually sort of see there's quite a lot of good descriptions of them that are really cut down versions and just short and sweet, and then it really is the process of reviewing it monthly, looking at the sections, looking at your targets, and just that constant reviewing that process. But yeah, it's one of those sort of things that's so easy just to write it, but it's harder to actually continue to go back and look at it and review it and to keep refreshing it.
Yeah, Marcus, I agree with you. The one-page business plan, the lean commercial business plan is fantastic. If anyone has a copy of that, I'll send it to them. If you want to contact me, if you want a copy of the one-page business plan, please contact me. I'll send you a copy of it.
And just post it on your desk as well, so you look at it every day.
Yeah, you should be looking at it on a regular basis because it's a dynamic device. So you should be looking at the successes and the failures from your business plan and how you correct accordingly.
Exactly. Well, your business plan should be setting your KPIs, and that's the one thing that we often don't do is how are we going to measure the KPIs that we set to the business plan, and then you get sort of two-way laid. It's really important to make sure you have KPIs you understand, make them easy to measure, systems in place to record.
It's got to be a circular thing. So you look at what you've done and you look at the success and the failure and you readjust accordingly. It's a circular economy.
Exactly.
It's a good point. So just KPIs, measurements. I mean, who has or needs? I think everyone does. Who has or needs measurements in their business? Who's got some clear measurements in place so they know how they're tracking? Q, man. Okay.
Yep.
Q, do you have what sort of do you have a selection of measurements across financial and other areas, or is it just a particular area?
I'll jump in. Yeah, so I have a couple of different measurements. Financial is generally the first place where I start because the numbers don't lie. You know? So I generally track my expenses and just the incomings, and based on that, go from there. Because I'm in a results industry, I track the finances of my clients. So ensure they're tracking towards. I also have lead measurement tracks, KPIs, and I differentiate those out because I like to keep track of what laneway they come from. So it gives me a better indication of what's trending for my particular business at that point, and allows me to develop. And the reason why I do it allows me to develop the appropriate package for that niche at that point. So, and then last but not least, I also track my own personal time. So, because I've learned that you have to look after yourself. So my KPI for my own personal time is whether I've made that time to go for a run or a paddle or a bike ride, because people remember to track business, but not their own personal, measures as well, which is important, I believe.
Great point.
On that cue, we do 2-week sprints.
Yep.
And at the start of a sprint, we do sprint planning.
Does anyone know what?
Does anyone know what sprint planning? It's basically just a
Short
block of time that you time block of doing. So Mary and myself and our marketing manager, over 2 weeks, we've got sort of the business development side of things. We've all got a backlog of things we want to get done. We dedicate 2 weeks to getting a list of things completed. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, we do a retrospective, which is basically looking at how we went. So we're recording in that. And we say, did we hit the objectives of the 2 week? If not, what changed? And then straight away after the retrospective, we go into sprint planning again. And the sprint planning, we're looking at metrics on our website. We're looking at our financials. We're looking at our roadmap, our vision, our mission, and our backlog of items that we've got, and then prioritizing what are we going to do in the next 2 weeks? What are we going to do in the next 2 weeks? So, I mean, it's kind of measurement. So we follow. It's a Scrum methodology that we follow.
And I think what you said is really, really on point. We get really good at trying to track our day-to-day activities, but what you said, the vision. I look at my vision every day because it's a bigger picture. We tend to forget about it, but that's someone before talked about motivation. If you remember your bigger picture, your bigger purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, then you're going to feel compelled to continue to take the right actions to ensure that you hit your vision.
My vision's there on the wall. You can see it.
Yeah. Awesome.
You shouldn't talk about Miriam like that.
I should talk about Miriam like that.
I mean, up on the wall. There was a point made earlier, and off the back of these measures, there was a point made earlier in the chat. It was quite a while back, I think, from Peter, around as a business owner, you need 5 minutes to review your finances, about 2 days to prepare the data. We often get bogged down in the processing. Have other people got financial systems in place that work? Are people doing any cash flow management, budget, P&L, balance sheet, anything like that?
Yeah, I've been using Recon for practically 15 years, but I've just migrated over to Zero accounting.
Yeah, Zero is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's probably the most commonly used program out there.
We're using QuickBooks.
We use QuickBooks.
yeah. I started out with QuickBooks as well. Then I moved to Recon accounting, and then finally I've gone to Zero as well.
Has anyone here in the group heard of something called rolling 12 P&L management, or rolling 12 measurement? That's one of the things that I can't say that I implemented it, but I set up the spreadsheets for it back when I was in the insurance industry, and it was one of the things that we used to help the financial planners who I was training to essentially see whether or not they were tracking upwards or downwards or sideways or whatever, like what are they doing? Because one of the problems with a standard P&L statement that you'll find, or any kind of balance sheet or any kind of financials that you get out of any of these accounting programs, because they're good, there's nothing wrong with that, and you have to do that because that's what the government wants, and you got to do your BAS off of that and all the rest of that stuff. But if you actually do something called a rolling 12, or what you're doing is actually rolling 12 basically means looking at a 13-month life cycle, which is kind of what may sound a little odd. But the beauty behind that is you always compare a full year's life cycle compared to the prior year's life cycle. Now, you cannot implement this unless you've been in business for at least 24, 25 months, because you have to have that year-on-year comparison capability. But if you really want to see whether or not you're tracking upwards or downwards on average on an annual basis, continuously, using a rolling 12, what it does is you basically average all of your past 12 months compared to the prior 12 months to that, and see whether or not there's an upswing or a downswing. And that gives you a better idea of whether or not you're actually tracking forward or not.
Yeah, we do that in our quick copy systems. We have a portal that updates daily, so we can track our 12-month rolling 12 months from the previous year. It's very good way of tracking where you're at.
Absolutely, it's probably the most underused tracking, financial tracking feature, if you wish, that exists, and it's not that hard to do because it's just basically a simple, spreadsheet. It's not the calculations that go behind creating a spreadsheet to do that. You dump your numbers out of a P&L once a month, and just basically just have the formula work it out. And once you've actually set it up once, it's as simple as copy paste.
Mark,
the good thing.
sorry.
Sorry.
You go, Peter.
As I said, the good thing with Zero that you've just moved into is you can do that with your cash flow and compare your 12 months. It's a really good way of keeping on top of where you're sitting on the cash flow side of things.
You're just comparing the months. Make that adjustment. Yeah. I used to call that rolling forward.
Fair. Yep. Cool.
So Peter, when you, sorry, Gabe, sorry, I interrupted. Sorry, Sonia.
I was only going to say that in the NICE course, we have to fill out, every month we fill out the spreadsheet, and it does the same function. But Zeke, I'm not sure if you've been doing it, but there's a monthly report.
By the look on his face, no.
Yeah, the monthly report shows you how you're showing up compared to the previous month, for instance. But yeah, it's over the next 12 months.
Yeah, because what it does is it irons out all the seasonal challenges. Now, obviously, COVID's going to be a real dinger for this calculation. We all know it's going to be, oh my goodness, this is a little different for most businesses. Not all. There's going to be a few that will be similar and still, similarly useful. But no matter what, it still doesn't change the fact that tracking that way is more likely to be more truthful about the average of where you're at. Because sometimes, especially, and one of the things that I had uncovered, because we also had recommended that to a lot of the clients from the financial planning perspective, because we had in Northern Ontario and Canada where we had a lot of clients who had seasonal businesses where they were like a ski resort. Well, they're closed half the year. Or they're a cottage, so they're closed the other half of the year. So take your pick. You're closed half of the year no matter which way you go. So you had to figure out some way of averaging these things to keep your business afloat.
One of the I guess mind tools that a mentor of mine gave to me a long time ago, which made me think about getting into small business for a long time, was the 3 mindsets of an entrepreneur. And these lead into metrics, but there's an entrepreneur should have 3 mindsets. They're the technician, so they're doing the work. They're the manager, so they're managing the work. And then they're the entrepreneur, they're finding the work. Now, I found, because our business is project-based, it's very hard for us to look at, over time, how that's going to happen. We're going to need 2 or 3 years worth of data to really get a lot of analysis out of that work. Mm-hmm. But I look at breaking down my work into those 3 mindsets, essentially. So the technician work, the management work, and the entrepreneurial work. Before we get to scale, we've got marketing, we've got defined functions. It's a really good way to look at how you're going with each one of those. Now, the technical work you can measure. There's time you've got, there's the revenue, there's the margin, there's everything like that. The management work, back to Q's time, that's more about how much time are you committing to it, how efficient are you, and are you getting efficiencies in your operations, and measuring targets like that, objectives as well as numbers. Then the entrepreneurial work is around setting objectives, back to your vision, back to your mission. And so I just try to break my time up during a week into those 3 mindsets. If I at the end of the week, I take stock of my week, if I spent too much time on one, then there's another measure to say that I'm not giving a balance to my business. So it's kind of a bit of a meta measurement, but it's another way that I'm mentally measuring my capacity as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. The book was the E-Myth, if anyone wants to read it. Off the back of that. Yep.
Another great book.
So how do people actually how do you set your goals for your business? Like how do you set what's important for your business?
Well, I'll just say as being part of a franchise is that we actually have a group that we meet. So there's 7 quick copies in our group around Australia, and we all meet twice a year and have phone and now Zoom hookups every quarter, and run through our numbers, and we set our financial goals and and we discuss all of our problems that we have within our business. So I suppose from your point of view, where perhaps you're not in a franchise, but I would look to reach out to people that you can confide in and talk to that aren't necessarily competitors, but they can add value to a discussion, and being able to and meet up with those people. And it could be a mentor, it could be somebody who can just sit down, that you can sit down with and chew the fat and review your KPIs, because then you become accountable to someone. We're accountable to our group. When we set our KPIs for the year, we're all getting slaps on the wrist if we're not doing what we said we would do. And we're also reviewing what other people said that they were going to do and getting ideas from that. That's a really good way of getting that business plan and KPI process in place, is having someone that you can, and it needs to be somebody who also has an interest in getting information from you. So it's another business person, somebody who's running a business, perhaps, that you can add value to their business. Yeah.
I think the first step will be really for setting goals, whatever it's business goals, it's personal goals, life goals, is to define your vision. What is that you want to achieve? That what is very important. And then based on that what, you can define other goals. So it's the what, and then why you want to do it, which is your mission, and then which is going to be your strategy. How you're going to get to that goal.
Then you can. Then it's smart.
Every first step is what. What is that you? I think it's some really deep thinking and analytical thinking is required to set that goal.
Yeah. Another place to reach out to is the associations that in your industry. Is making sure that you're a member of that association and you're involved in the communications that go on, because they often have KPIs for your industry published, that you can start sort of looking at whether you're on track here just for benchmarking. And it's a good way also to develop those networks of people that are in the same industry, but maybe they're not direct competitors because they're in a different area or region.
Fair point. Actually, one of the things that it comes down to in a lot of cases, what we're hearing is that everyone's using a lot of very similar concepts or ideas to varying successes, right? It's not, it's not like we're all telling, once I go back to what I said at the very beginning, we're all telling each other and ourselves to suck eggs in a way, because we already know this stuff, right? But when you actually think in terms of making that major change, the major change comes from a minor change. And a minor change usually means the combination of two things you already do but never saw it the same way, which happens to be, by the way, the definition of what innovation is about, right? And we really do need to think in terms of in which respect are you actually leveraging these things in innovative ways? Because for the most part, most businesses, no matter how much they say they are innovative, chances are they're not. If you have a conversation with most of your clients, and most of us here have some form of B2B relationship with our clients in one way or another, even if it's B2C, there's going to be an element there that there's going to be, because a lot of them will be business owners. And if you actually have that conversation with your clients, you'll probably find that if you gave them a preference, they would go back to doing things the way that they always did before, which means not being innovative, not changing the status quo. And there's an elephant in the room that we're forgetting to talk about here, which is really a big part of the reason why we're having these meetings on Zoom. Let's not forget that, is we still got the COVID challenge, right? That doesn't mean, just because, it's like, that's not going to go away tomorrow. As we've seen, look at what's happened in Victoria recently. They've gone from what they thought was going to be, hey, everything's going all right. Oh no, hang on, things aren't going so well again. And it could spill over, and it could spill over many times over and over again. Even with a vaccine, it could still spill over. So to what degree, how many times do we have to hit ourselves in the head with the big stick and say, oh, I've got to change the way I do things, right?
Today I got, yeah, that's good, Mark. Today I had a call from a client looking for a couples counsellor, and he'd called about 4 other counsellors before me. And of course that just makes my ears prick up. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Right. Yep.
And I think not to want to sell, but just think, okay, well, what value can I give to this person that I can stand out maybe? So he sort of told me his situation. I said, well, here's the 3 ways that couples counselling can help couples. There's 3 kind of different approaches to that depending on what you need. So I just shared that, not really expecting him much of a response. He's like, oh, wow, okay, yeah. Because the last person said, oh, I can make your relationship the best in the world and all this kind of... And I just...
Yeah.
So I just gave him some real answers, like gave him hope, but, this, sort of spelled it out a bit to him and made it sort of a bit more real and practical.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that was kind of an opportunity for me to just do what you're saying, Mark, just see what I can bring that may be a bit different and put my creative hat on and go, okay, how can I help this person to maybe go to the next step?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he did book an appointment. So.
Good, excellent. Good to hear. That's and that's really, and there's a bit of a sort of transitionally speaking about this, is why I want to mention this too. Is obviously, don't forget everyone that on Thursday morning is the Central Coast Innovation Breakfast, again online, which will be wonderfully hosted by Paul and Jacinta along with their team. But there's no doubt that really that kind of thinking. The best way to learn how to be innovative is to listen to other people doing innovation, actually doing it. Okay. Because really, and I think that that's often really where things fall down, is that it's that whole thing of wanting to go back to what's comfortable, and that, innovation requires a limited, and I do say it, limited level of discomfort. You do actually have to do that. I don't know if you can tell, but like even for me, I'm going back to playing my guitars again. I hadn't played for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and I've pulled them all out, and I'm starting, and it's painful. I've gone through getting the calluses on my fingers and a whole bit. You got to go through that pain period, when you're learning
get
to play
out 6 or 7 because the first one doesn't sound very good, and then you think
they
you
all
try another
sound like
one,
shit,
or
mate. They all sound like shit. Everything I do sounds like it's like, and I've got this little looper pedal and I'm playing a loop, and it sounds like crap, and it's like start over again.
It's not the guitar, mate. It's the person playing it.
Totally, exactly. But that whole thing of having to go through that, and I guess it's the calluses on the fingers analogy that I'm guessing I'm driving at with this, is that you do have to go through that period of time, right? Because it's a change. So,
Guys, yeah, no, good point. What I just want to do, just to wrap up, I just put a question in the chat, and again, there's lots of questions, lots of feedback tonight, lots of areas that we can look to help in the future. But if you could change one thing in your business, and I know after going into song and verse on this, we don't have the time, but just I'm going to start with Marcus. If you could try to change one thing in your business, what would it be?
Probably that I would be more disciplined in that content creation process. That's the big one for me. It's the discipline of content creation. Okay. That's probably the hardest part. Okay. Cool. Neuropsychology of self-discipline is challenging.
Christine.
I was actually having this conversation this morning with Rochelle, the chick who started Share Your Dignity. And it would be that people who run charities get the same level of respect that business owners do. I will speak to a lot of people, and as soon as they find out what I do, although I have 450 people that I manage each day, that doesn't seem to mean anything because I don't run a business. So level respect.
Okay. You're hanging around the wrong people, Christine. We have high respect for you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Paul, Jacinta. She's on the phone, so Paul's got to answer.
We'll put you under the spot, buddy.
Be careful what you say. You got Jacinta in the room,
and you're muted still.
And you're muted.
Yeah, I knew that. I was just trying to sort it out. Strange as it might seem, I duplicate Jacinta. It's sometimes it's really difficult when you have someone who almost is the business, and I think that's one of the biggest issues that we face, is that the knowledge and the creativity that she particularly brings, it is not duplicated anywhere else across the business. So I think that she's very much the fifth element with support, and duplicating that would be ideal. It's not going to happen. So we need to find ways of not relying on that quite so much.
Geez, that's a great point, mate.
Duplicate her, or I don't rely on her quite so much.
No, that's a great point. Just business in general, certainly for people wanting to grow a business for more than themselves, then it can be a big hurdle. Thank you, mate.
You're welcome.
Q.
Hey, my biggest challenge is just to remember to come back to me and my family, because I get caught up in what I'm doing so regularly, so often, because when you love something that you do and you just want to do what's best for your clients, you get immersed in it. But got to remember there's your family and yourself and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah.
Good point, mate. I know we weren't going to talk about solutions, but I hear there's a great podcast, episode 17, the culture thing, talking about self-care. Maybe you should listen to that, because apparently you're going to be a guest on that podcast in a couple of weeks. So you should listen to it.
Tick.
Yeah.
Cameron.
Yeah, hi guys. It's been great listening to you guys tonight. But I've got one of the biggest challenges I've got at the moment is actually myself. I do everything in the business, so I'm very much limited by my physical ability to actually see as many people as I need to see, follow up on everything, communicate through social media, do all the logistics and everything like that. So I'm desperately trying to actually recruit someone to take a bit of those responsibilities away from me. And then I've got to have the whole willingness and courage to actually delegate. It's like the sales tasks and stuff like that to someone else. And that's going to be the big challenge, is finding the right person. But then the biggest challenge will be actually having the trust to be able to delegate some crucial roles to those people, so I can have more time to actually work on it rather than in the business. Because at the moment it's a 25-hour-a-day machine.
Great point, mate.
And COVID has certainly been an uptick for our business, because most people are now working at home and doing what we're doing right now. So energy costs have gone through the roof for a lot of people, and they're really thinking about sustainability in their home rather than normally those energy requirements are just off-put to their work. It's the boss's problem. Now it's their own problem. So we're busier than we've ever been right now. So yeah, it's certainly this period of time has been an opportunity for us rather than being a detriment to us.
Excellent, mate. Thank you for sharing. Sonia.
Just doing a little bit more in all areas of my business, I think. Just put a little bit more effort. I get a lot of inspiration, but not so much action. So just putting a bit more action to the inspiration, and that would be phenomenal.
Where's one area you would take action on?
I think developing a part of my business plan to where I know it can be, and that would take probably a little bit of cold calling. So that's probably why I'm procrastinating. Yeah, so I just need to do that.
So continually, I guess I'm just hearing continue to further the client base. I know you've got a number of practitioners or whatever working for you, but you've got plans to grow that bigger. So that's your focus, yeah?
Yeah.
Great on the challenge. Thank you. Good stuff. Pete?
I think I just want to improve my knowledge base. So probably just learning a new skill. I've been teaching myself on social media ways that I can benefit our existing client base, and moving the things that they're advertising in print, making sure that we're part of the mix in helping them with their digital presence at the same time. So I've been improving my knowledge on that area. That's
the digital marketing space.
Yeah, just making sure that's it's part of our existing services within Quick Copy, and just we don't take advantage of it enough. So that's just learning a new thing. I think that's an important part of being an entrepreneur, is making sure that you're always upskilling.
Absolutely. Not learning, you're dying, isn't that what they say? Gabe.
I'm probably a little bit opposite to Peter. I'm learning a bit too much. I've got too many courses going at the moment. But I'm getting there. It's one day at a time. I think my biggest challenge is staying motivated because the business isn't where I pictured it. A lot of that's to do with COVID, I think. I think a great deal. It prevented me from getting out face-to-face like I wanted to in the first few months. And then my mindset is something I have to work on about going cold calling face to face. I think I'll have better luck going door to door than on the phone. I really don't like it. I worked for a year in a newspaper doing that, and I hated it. Yeah.
Well, you're also quite a pleasant person to talk to, Gabe. So if people can see you and have a bit of chat, then that's probably a positive, right?
Yeah. I like to talk to people and listen to their story.
The amount of people that actually enjoy door to door not only are very rare, but very strange. So don't feel alone, okay?
We can always get you some door to door with a politician. There's some good training ground. Don't worry about that.
But wait,
Patrick.
there's more.
Patrick.
Yeah. Okay, but just like to encourage you because I graduated from Nice 15 years ago as well. So you just keep going. Don't give up. There's a good future there. So in my case, it's I do weekly calendars of activities. So every day in the week has a particular function in terms of what I have to do. And what I do on Friday afternoons is reward myself by not doing anything and just doing whatever I like. So what I would like to improve is making it stricter that I have every Friday afternoon without doing much work, just rewarding myself. It makes
What's
you feel
stopping
good.
you?
Sometimes the customers will tell me, "Oh, I had to do it this time," and I say yes.
So the only thing stopping you is discipline.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a tough one.
It's hard to say no.
It can be. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Leon, are you there, buddy? You've been hiding behind a ship.
Maybe he's not.
I don't know.
He's not there. Marcus.
Might as well move to you. Oh, muted.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Oh, we hear.
Oh, Leon, we can hear you, mate. You had to rush back from somewhere.
No. I was listening. I was listening all along.
Mate, I know you're in a different situation. So for those that don't know and didn't hear earlier, Leon is an old shipping buddy of mine. Great to have him on board. He works for a corporate organisation, but maybe he's venturing out, starting his own shipping company or container company. Is that right, buddy?
Nope.
Now, I'm very interested to hear your answer. What would you change in the business if you could pick one thing?
Business? As one of our colleagues says, if you get rid of head office, all the problems will be solved.
Oh, yeah.
Not quite.
That's the same for customers. If we can get rid of all the customers, we'd be fine.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Look, I was just going to make a point, I was listening. It's quite interesting again from a small business owner point of view. You know, the struggles that you face as a consumer. Well, one of the things that I've seen is, and this is more to do with bigger businesses, do they actually listen to customers? So, and I've had at least 3 occasions where I've bought something, I've had an opinion on it, and at the back of the product, there's, for feedback, please call this number or please email here. 2 out of 3 occasions, no response. And on the 3rd time, somebody actually phoned me back and said, "Yo, that's a great idea. But, with management and we got to do this. So unfortunately, we can't do it." So basically my point is I'm the customer. So you are telling me you're deciding what you think is best for the customer. But I'm telling you, this is what I would think. So do businesses actually take feedback on board and do they do anything about it?
Great point, mate. Thank you for sharing that from your perspective. Very important.
The other thing I would say, and again, I don't know the types of businesses all of you folks have. If I'm going to somewhere that I don't know, let's say if I was going to the Central Coast, the website I would go to is either the council website or the Visit whatever website, like Visit, I'm in the Penrith area, so I would go to the Visit Penrith website or the Visit Bathurst website, because I think that's sort of a trustworthy website. So no, the Penrith Council, they have a link on it to the Visit Penrith website, which has the different cafes and small businesses and all of that. So again, if that's not something that your council does or promotes, then that's probably something for you to think of.
We have the bigger backyard.
Yeah, that's well. I think the point that Leon's making in respect to this actually relates almost closer to what, if you think about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leon, but it's as if what you're saying is the tourism aspect is, because you're visiting, ends up being sort of the landing page for the impressions you're going to get for that marketplace, even if you're not necessarily going there with the intent specifically to be a so-called quote unquote tourist. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. There you go. So tourism, it goes to show that tourism really, really matters, by the way, for any marketplace. It's incredibly large. And even when it's only 5 to 10% of the total market's turnover, you can't look at it that way, because it's what actually can make or break the impression of how a market area is perceived.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Thank you, Leon. Thanks, buddy.
That's okay.
Marcus.
So probably a bit of what everyone said so far.
You can only choose one, mate.
But mine's probably as much around a bit of shiny object syndrome. Having a couple of different businesses, it's really easy to get distracted of what's the most important thing to be dealing with today, opposed to going, right, well, I need to be more systematized and proceduralized to make sure that I'm getting through the things I need to get to on a daily, weekly basis.
So that prioritization side of things.
Yep.
Don't you coach people on that?
Yeah, well, you know, hey, it doesn't mean we're good at it, though, you know.
I know, mate, I know. I know.
He's a fellow cobbler. He's a fellow cobbler.
What it is, we understand where it all goes wrong.
Object, anybody? You know, like seriously, we all have them, right?
Absolutely. I think Mark made a comment to me this afternoon. Look, there's this stuff we tell other people about their business, but we don't always do it on our own business.
No, we're always shocking about that. And it's making that, I mean, Mark referred to that right at the start, you know, it's like, you know, and it's often the case. We are out there helping other people and doing a great job with all of that, but we're not so good at our own backyard.
Absolutely.
So what about you, Brendan?
Mine is really around my podcast. And it's just the back end processing of things. I've got a fairly robust process, which Mark's seen, and it does cover quite a bit of stuff, but I need to reduce the administration and automate some of the areas behind that. So, you know, starting right from sort of guest, you know, booking and run sheets right through to the final product and marketing behind the final product and all that sort of stuff. So I put work into that constantly each day, but yeah, there's some, it does take a fair bit of time. So, but I never like to do things in halves. So I don't just put a podcast out. There's a lot of marketing and objects and content and blogs and all that stuff that comes off the back of it. So that's my area, definitely. Thank you for asking. All right.
Cool.
Guys, well, look, what I just want to say is I've written, obviously we've recorded the session, so we'll send it out, but I've written a load of notes. Again, what we were just really keen is to just grab these ideas from people and where those challenges sit, and, you know, how people have explained various things tonight. It's been really good just to pull stuff out of that, because what we want to try and do is, there's lots of, you know, things out there and people pay all sorts of silly money for help and stuff, but we've got the basis of such a solid community. We want to try and build some ability to create free resources and utilize all of the knowledge we have within the community, so we can share it with each other. We put these sort of things on. We can focus on some areas. If you like or need help in that area, you join. If you don't, then don't worry about it. If you need help later on, you can go to a website and download a video and all that sort of stuff. So it's not rocket science stuff, but we want to make sure we try and tailor it a bit to what our community needs help with, because there's lots of stuff out there that people can go to, but it's pretty generic stuff. We want to try and help our Central Coast community first and foremost. So that's why we wanted to pick your brains effectively tonight. Really, was what it was about.
One other thing I'd like to add in here too is, by the way, folks, invite your business friends, business colleagues to come and join us. You know, because like it's great to have this group, and I'm really happy with who we have showing up on a regular basis. And I think that part of what will make this dynamic, interesting, and truly educational, because it's sort of that it's very hard to grow ideas in a bubble. You know, like you got to get into the bubble, but then you got to get out of that bubble eventually, right? And that there's that whole process. So I think that it's one of those things that is, as much as we possibly can, let's take the time to invite possibly some of your clients or people that you know that are in business. You're going, you know, these people probably, as much as they would benefit from being a participant, would be very good at sharing some ideas. They'll do both sides of it. And that's usually most people, because most people, once, as we all have tonight, been able to learn from each other.
Absolutely. So I was just responding to.
It's amazing how
asked the question.
It's amazing how a little abstract idea from some third party can really develop into something major for a well-connected group.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely.
I think I'd like to add something on the value of this group.
For
me,
yes,
it's not really been about going out and seeking anyone's business as such. The value of this group for me has been the collaborations that have come with it. So, you know, together with Isaac from MakeWeb, we've gone out and sourced clients together. I'm currently working on something with Mark, with Zeke. So that's been the real value of this group, is being able to collaborate on ideas and bring other people's expertise to your own business.
So true.
Absolutely, mate. Awesome point. Best way to help each other, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, it beats the hell out of trying to take money out of each other's pocket.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's plenty of pockets out there full of cash we can all steal from.
That's the
maybe we should all be buying some baseball bats and going out together.
No, they call it cold calling for nothing.
That's a good point.
Is that there's some kind of a joke punchline that ends with, and then they called that a sport.
Classic.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, look, thanks very much for joining. Again, of all the ideas tonight that we've got, we're certainly not going to be able to cover all these bases in 5 minutes, but it's about sort of starting to develop a plan, and again, work with everyone within the group that can help share some knowledge, share some insight, and we can make those resources available to people longer term. That's the key for us. So thank you for contributing tonight. Really appreciate it. We're on again in a couple of weeks, I think. And again, I never remember the date, but a couple of weeks from today. So look forward to seeing. And Sonia made a comment, how do we invite people? Just invite people, word of mouth, or send them to our website, or forward the email that goes out. And we'll go out much sooner than what today's one did for tonight. So we'll try and give people 48 hours notice or something next time.
All righty.
Thanks, everyone.
Excellent, guys. Enjoy the rest of your, and ladies and gents, enjoy the rest of your night, eh?
All righty.
Thank
you.
Thanks for joining.
He's got dinner.
He's got dinner. Bye for now.
Thanks, Leon.
Yeah.
You guys,
all
thanks,
served
Brendan.
up. My goodness. See you guys. Thanks, Leon, mate. Good to see you, bud.